Welcome to Hyperspace Prospector. May the 4th be with you, always. I'm going to be looking at the Phantom Menace Episode 1, Amidala and Sabe costumes. I remember being very young when this film first came out. That trailer with the green grass.
I will not condone a course of action that will lead us to war.
And just the goosebumps sitting in the theater for the Phantom Menace. And the opening crawl came up and I was like, this is it. I loved every minute of it. I know a lot of people were like, I don't like the prequels or whatever. That was never me. I was obsessed with the prequels from day one, to the point where I did, and we'll talk about it later, one of the hairstyles in this film as a teenager for years. I'm sure it looked terrible, but it made me so happy. I had all the Queen Amidala dolls. I had action figures galore. I ended up giving them away to some kids who would really appreciate them a few years back. But I've done several costumes from this film. Unfortunately, again, this is early days. I didn't have digital cameras. The internet was just getting started. I don't have pictures of them. My first fan site for Star Wars was the Otta Gunga. I would show you a screenshot, but I don't know where it is. It was back on Angel Fire. This was like in the year 2000. I could talk about my Phantom Menace memories for 2 hours, but we're here to look at costumes, which is the real reason I fell in love with this film. That and the lightsaber battles. I'm going to go through the whole movie, and we're going to find all of Amidala and Sabe's costumes. She's on a transmission right now, so I'm going to go skip to a scene where we actually see the gown. First of all, this palace is incredibly perfect. If I could live on any planet, it would be Naboo, which is another reason I love the Samtecas. Here we have an incredible gown. I love that it lights up, but I've read that it was very difficult to get that effect to work properly, and I'm sure this gown was incredibly heavy. Fortunately, I think all the scenes we see of her wearing it, she's not really moving, she's standing or sitting. I absolutely adore these sleeves. And the hair is really interesting as well, because there's the large, beautiful hair right here, but then down the back, you'll see she has a whole knot work. Just stunning from every angle. Some outfits are definitely meant to be seen from the back or the front. This one, 360. It is astonishingly beautiful. All right, next up we have Sabe. Absolutely gorgeous. This is one of my favorites, the black feather one that she has kind of put on to represent mourning, I assume, of her people now being subjugated, put into camps. And we don't talk about that too much, but it got really bad on Naboo here for a while. Right here, you can tell this was definitely at least partially inspired by late 1300s wimple kind of a look, and then they also had these metallic little side buns, I guess you could call them, that were very sparkly and had netting, and they definitely have this look. So this is uber late 14th century, but with feathers. Here's an early view of the first handmade outfits. These are really lovely. They're meant to kind of disguise the features a little bit, specifically so that the queen and a handmaiden can swap places and her features aren't obvious. Thus the hoods. I really love the gradient here. We have a gradient theme in a lot of the Naboo gowns. You definitely see it in the lake outfit that she has in the next film. I could not personally pull off this outfit. Orange looks terrible on me, but they look good. Here we have a great close-up of both the wimple look on Sabe and the handmaiden look on Amidala. The velvet fabric here contrasted with the very stark orange is just perfect. And look how they complement the little side buns that have the red and the orange underneath. I've had several people ask, why does she wear that weird makeup? In a practical sense, it makes disguises easier. They're able to swap back and forth, as we saw in this film. There's also a huge layer of ritual to it, symbolizing her role as queen and the history that comes behind that. We have the scar of remembrance on her lip and like the wounds and the tears that you see with some of the other queens. Most of that, from what I understand, has to do with the more violent past of Naboo before we saw its time of peace, the Great Peace, sometimes it's called, where it becomes a planet of scientists and artists, very serene and beautiful, flowers everywhere kind of a place. And it's just a visual reminder every time you look at the queen, it wasn't always like this. Remember, don't let it happen again. She is just a teenager. And having this full ritual makeup on doesn't just remind people who look at her, it reminds her how much responsibility is on her shoulders. There's something about when you're cosplaying or even just getting dressed up, you feel different if you have like a lot of makeup on and your hair done and a really beautiful gown. And I think it's also to make it easier for the queen to rule justly and fairly because it's literally on her skin to do so. And there's a lot of power in makeup. This is not my magic channel, but for anyone who doesn't know, I am pagan and there is makeup magic. Now, you're like, this is Star Wars. What are you talking about? We have the Force, okay? There's precedence for things being imbued with powers that perhaps are beyond comprehension. And not to say that the makeup of the Queens of Naboo has some specific force ability or anything like that. I'm saying ritually, when you put on that scar and remind yourself, don't go back to the times of violence. This is why we see her in those transmissions saying, I will not condone a course of action that will lead us to war. She has it on her face not to do it. Okay, I did not realize it would go on so long about Queen Amidala's, in this case, Sabe, lipstick. But there we are. This is such a hilarious scene. When you know it's Sabe, and she's like, this droid deserves our gratitude. And it's like, Padme, clean him up. She's telling the actual queen to go clean oil off a droid. You know there's an inside joke going on here between the two of them. I paused here for the hairstyle. Her Tatooine outfit is super cute and very comfortable looking, but the hair, so elaborate. And they didn't have that much time, so I'm guessing she had this hairstyle underneath the orange hooded outfit. That must have gotten so hot, so much hair under so much velvet. But we did see that scene later on when Anakin was like, it's so cold in space. And she wraps a little cloak around him. So I'm guessing it was fine when they were up in space, but they're on Tatooine right now. It is hot. I don't know if you've been anywhere that's hot, but the first thing you want to do is get your hair up and out of the way. I know, she looks amazing. But look at all this hair. It's so much hair for a hot planet. It looks really cute though. I like the blue and gray she has going on with the doubled up look. Although again, probably so hot. I think if I were Padme, I would have lasted about 10 minutes and then I would have stripped off that gray overdress and I've been like, mm-mm. Here's the scene. It's so cute. She wraps him up in her cloak and he carved this for her. Absolutely adorable. Anakin is so cute in this film. You watch him and you're like, how did this adorable child become Darth Vader? There are 2 other films to explain this. But still, he's so cute. This is one of my favorite gowns. It is gorgeous. I contemplated creating this cosplay, but then I started studying it and I was like, creating the headpiece alone would take years. Tracking the correct beads down, making sure they're in the correct places. I have seen cosplayers who pulled it off and you are amazing. Huge respect. I love it so much. Here we have another handmade outfit. Almost a surcoaty kind of a look with the velvet again and the underdress with the ruched sleeve kind of a look and this hood. I'm all about this hood. Oh, I could be wrong because it's really dark, but I think there might be some subtle kind of stamped Naboo heraldry going on. It's like an orchid / iris fleur-de-lis kind of a look. You know the one I mean, into the velvet, but they have it really subtly. I love this shot because in the background you actually get to see her suitcases with all these outfits. It looks like most of these are handmaids attire or underdresses. I think the sleeve you're seeing is from the travel gown that we're going to see later, the purple one. This is an absolutely spectacular gown, her Coruscant one, that she uses to speak to the Senate in. What's really cool is they're telling us who she is, because Padme was wearing orange and red most of the time, other than her Tatooine outfit. And here she emerges, also in orange and red, but now she's the queen. And this is where like the makeup and the hoods and everything come into play because he does not recognize her. And you can definitely tell this was inspired by a specific geographic area and historical context, much like most of her gowns so far, from around the world through history, outfits, and royalty. There's a whole book about this. You might have seen it actually in the background of some of my videos where I'm shooting at home with costumes, and that's Trisha's book. And she'll go into massive detail. I'm not going to do behind the scenes on this. This is just my opinion on the costumes. She has some great things to say. I highly recommend the book. When she's in the Senate, she puts a black coat on, which is the reason I wore this one today, over this gown because it's cold in there, apparently. And you can definitely tell this throughout all the Senate garb. Everyone has like cloaks on and fairly heavy outfits. My guess is heating a room like this would be almost impossible and very expensive. So pro tip, if you're going to Coruscant and you're going to speak in front of the Senate, bring a coat. I know I've said this probably 5 times already, but this is one of my favorite outfits. She also wears this during the funeral scene. Again, it's representing, at least to me, that she's still in mourning. Her people are suffering, that she's responsible for. Remember the scar? She just talked to the Senate. They won't help her. They're just like, oh, we'll look into it when we get time, maybe. Perhaps in a committee. I don't know. She's losing hope. And she's like, I'm not getting anything done. Useless. I'm going home and I'm going to see what I can actually do on Naboo myself. And she's wearing this outfit in solidarity with what they're going through. The beadwork on this is astoundingly beautiful. I have a close-up of just this section right here. Masterful. I did recreate it a couple of times, but unfortunately I never took pictures because it was back in film camera days. Look at these gorgeous sleeves and beadwork. While we're here in the background, there's another handmaiden. Hood covering most of their face. Fabulous red velvet, kind of burgundy-ish this time. You can kind of see here on the sleeve, the beadwork. Gorgeous. This is one of my favorite outfits. The purple travel gown. This is what I based a lot of my first Mandalorian 1.0 on. The only part I think that survived to the current 2.0 is one of the pauldrons, and the color scheme is this outfit. So if you're ever wondering where did this channel's color and my Mandalorian armor come from, it was this gown. This might be my absolute favorite of episode 1. It is so stunning. And the fabric right here, the drapes, the velvet that ties her into the handmaidens, representing that she's been swapping back and forth and stuff like that. I don't have enough good things to say about this outfit. I absolutely love it. I may have made my entire personality about this outfit now that I think about it. This is the one I cosplayed the most often as a teenager, and the one I wished I could cosplay, but did not have the budget. Sabe's battle gown is so cute, and it was something that I could make with the materials I could afford at that age. As I recall, I found a bedspread for the black and an old graduation gown for the red. I had to buy the fabric for the belt, and I never fully got the hair perfect. But I did have the headpiece done pretty decently. I did that with glitter paint. I do have her blaster. The handmaiden's attire is so comfortably practical, but they have the cool Naboo sleeves with the medieval look to them. And then the little gold here. And I love the little pant skirt look that they have going on. We'll see more of it when they start attacking the palace. I lost track of how many times I went to see the Phantom Menace in the theater. It was basically as many as I could scrape the money together for. This was always my favorite scene. I loved this palace corridor where Padme and the other handmaidens are like blasting the droids, and then they take out the window and they go up. Oh, I could watch this scene on loop for the rest of my life and be perfectly content and watch no other media. In fact, there's nothing stopping us from watching it right now. This is peak Star Wars.
We don't have time for this, Captain.
Oh, so satisfying. Look at the fabric, how it moves as she runs. Oh, and this view and the waterfall. As a teen, I was like, I want this. I want to do this. And like seeing a girl my age just blasting windows out in this outfit was... And we have the statue here. I don't know how anyone doesn't like this film. I really don't. There's one more scene I want to do. And that's one I have probably recreated at least once a week since the film came out, and especially since I finally got this particular blaster. The short barrel version she has hidden in the arm of her throne. I have that hidden in a drawer by my bed, and the number of times I have opened this drawer, pulled it out, and said, "And now, Viceroy, we will discuss a new treaty." An embarrassing high amount.
Now, Viceroy, we will discuss a new treaty.
This is probably the most fashionable of all the handmade outfits that they interestingly wore to a funeral. They still have the hood, but it's less dark and mysterious and more light framing the face. And it's almost like the hood goes straight into a bolero jacket cloak thing, which is fascinating. And we have the Naboo symbols that you can see right here. Again, not a color, unfortunately, I can pull off. But so pretty. One more to go, and you know what I'm about to say. This is one of my favorites. The layers of petals and then the really subtle gradient that we're seeing again. Beautiful. And then the kind of collar slash back decorative piece is outstanding. Would not want to wear it on a very windy day, but it looks good. I think if I were Padme, the first thing I would do is, unfortunately, remove the back piece and just keep the petal kind of a cloak and underdress, because it seems a little bit more practical. This is another handmaiden, I assume, based on the hood and then the royal Naboo symbol on her cloak in a slightly contrasty color. I do love her hair here, though. It's very subtle. There's not the mountains of hair everywhere. It's just a nice little to accentuate her face. And I love the little headpiece she has. I think just from a here up standpoint, I love this outfit more than all the others. From here down, it's still the purple. In this shot, you can really see that gradient in each of the petals on her cloak. What a way to end the film. I hope you enjoyed my ramblings about the Phantom Menace and Amidala's outfits. Words cannot express how much it meant to me when it first came out, and today, but definitely when I was about her age. She was an inspiration. I wanted to be Padme. I hope you're having a great May the 4th. May the Force be with you, for light and life.